A cleanly shaven Ironhead joined by Goon and Chris Buchanani on a sad Tuesday. Sure, it feels like a beautiful day. Sure, a lot of folks are excited about the end of school. The kiddos are building up the anticipation for the summer. Sure, my baseball team can win a game with no hits. But, man, it is a sad Tuesday for your dear Ironhead here.
Yeah, you know what they say, Ironhead, it's better to have grown and shaved than never grown at all.
That is what they say. Man, just a tough one. Welcome to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show at Quaker Steak Lube with the dear Booch joining us here on what really is an absolutely gorgeous day outside here in Happy Valley. And just real
Seems
quick.
fine to me. I don't know about you.
No, it's a depressing
the last
day.
couple of days here. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
And here is my great frustration, because normally, right, if your team blows a 3-1 lead, like normally the fan in me would be ready to rip the team and management and this and that, because you just got to take out the frustration. Here is my additional frustration is in none of those games, and again, this is just one person's opinion. I've read some other stuff that would contradict my opinion, and that's fine. I don't think it was a situation where the Penguins blew the lead or the series, or in terms of like overconfidence or just playing poorly. I actually thought that Game 7 performance from start to finish, again, just my perspective, I think that might have been their best, most consistent performance against a team that was obviously also playing do-or-die fashion and playing gritty. But the Penguins controlled the action for the majority of that game. True enough. but they really did. And it's the one thing with hockey. I mean, a lot of times you say, okay, well, the better team doesn't always win. And this isn't bitter Ironhead coming out.
You didn't run into a hot goalie and get it stolen.
Yeah, I do think the Penguins were the better team. But yeah, normally you say, okay, the better team doesn't always win because there's a hot goalie. Yep. It wasn't like Shesterkin was on fire by any stretch. I mean, and I also don't think he played a horrible series either. But it wasn't like, man, you just got stone cold shut out by a fantastic goalie. That wasn't the case either. And again, all sports and hockey in particular, and we've talked about it, to win championships, there's some luck that goes along the way, right? I mean, that's just and the Rangers don't feel to me like a team that is going to go on and win the cup, but who knows? Again, it's hockey. Anything can happen. I just don't think the way – I think for the Rangers to win the cup this year, Shesterkin has to stand on his head, and I just don't think he's going to be doing that. I mean, that's not where he's at right now in watching that series. And again, it's not that he's playing poorly, but he's not playing like the best goalie in the world right now either. But again, for me, and I know they blew a couple of 2-goal leads. I get it. I know they blew a lead again in the third period, but it wasn't like just defensive letdowns. It wasn't that they weren't keeping the pressure up. To me, they played, the Crosby injury changed everything in Game 5, but I don't think that lingered in Game 6 for the Penguins.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was all. Let's just go.
No, I don't. Well, I'm not saying with his play, but I'm thinking the Penguins. Well, no, but I'm saying so. Part of my frustration is I don't know where to go with my frustration. Like it's not even like a player or two where it's like, there were lapses here and there, but I mean, it's a 7-game series. There's no team where every player just plays perfectly and Rodriguez came back after me. There was a horrible penalty that he took, and he gets the goal and plays well. Getzel's ridiculous shot. I mean, that's when I started feeling, you know what, this is like the Penguins are just
the hand-eye foot coordination shot.
I mean, that was crazy. And it's the nature of overtime. I mean, anything. I like the Penguins' chances going in, but I was texting with a buddy. I'm like, who knows? I mean, you might not get a shot off. Do I like the Penguins' chances? Yes. Do I feel good going into this? Yes. Did I feel good going into games 5, 6, and 7? Yes. But again, they made all of the, from my perspective, I think that they made all of the right moves in terms of the lineup. I think that the chemistry was there. It wasn't a situation where I think, again, anything fell apart. I just think they played a good team. They had some bad breaks. And I don't know. I want to be able to, man, it was all, if only Gino had shown up. Well, he did show up. If only Chris Letang played like Chris. Well, he did play like Chris Letang. I mean, so I don't know. Usually, again, when your team blows a 3-1 lead, like you're ready. Let's get the finger pointing going. I have nowhere to go with my frustration, and that's as frustrating as anything for me. Because I think the Penguins played well. And there's nothing specific I can point to. Again, yes, there was the penalty was a killer.
I hate to see the call
in game 6.
Even as a fan that wanted both teams to just both lose the game, I hate when a referee's get involved like that.
Yeah,
you put it away.
And I know there's a lot made of the lost helmet, and I don't like that rule. And I didn't know. They explained it a little more on
the post game stuff because the players didn't even know it pretty much.
No, I didn't know that. Crazy. I thought you had. And I even. I questioned it because I'm like, well, these guys have to know what they're talking about, but that's not the rule.
Yeah,
like you have to get off the ice
stuff when they were talking to refs.
So and that again, you still clear the freaking puck, and you don't have to worry about it. But whatever.
Yep. The guy I was very impressed with what he did was Jerry coming back with a broken foot.
Yeah,
and playing the way he did.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, I mean, he
didn't give up bad goals.
No. He didn't.
The final goal went through Letang's legs, off of another guy. It was like one of those things. It was like you're cursed.
I have a question about that final goal.
Yeah.
I was thinking about when that game went to overtime, I thought, I understand hockey players are, with the possible exception of wrestlers, the best conditioned athletes. Like, these guys are in ridiculous shape.
For sure.
But that series put so much wear and tear on the players. You think about a 7-game series, multiple overtimes, and Pittsburgh had just heroically killed off that penalty. That when they scored, I thought, I wonder if that last effort to kill the penalty that just sucked out the last of the fumes in the tank.
And I will be curious. It's one of the reasons I don't think the Rangers are going to win the cup is it was such an emotional series,
right.
And it was and again, hats off to the Rangers. And I don't like the Rangers, but I mean I do respect this team. I mean I do think they play hockey the right way. I thought both teams again. It wasn't. I just thought it was a good. Trying to be objective, which is impossible for me when it comes to Pittsburgh sports, but trying to be objective, I really did think it was just a really good, fun hockey series. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of goals, a ton of opportunities. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was just fun hockey. And again, I'm hoping we'll see what happens here with Letang and Malk, and I'm doubtful that both will be back, but I obviously would love to see it because I do think I think the chemistry on that team is very good. I think Sullivan is the right coach right now for this team. And
I'll tell you what, every Pittsburgh Penguins fan in my Twitter feed today is ready to box Ron Hextall up and send him out of town. Did you see the story about the supposed lowball offer to keep Letang and Malkin?
Yes.
What's your take on that?
It
was like a 3-year deal for both at way under what you would think of as their market.
Correct.
Right?
So
pay cut actually. For both of them, yes?
what I think? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And listen, I don't know. I don't know all of the ins and outs. Obviously, I think what I'm hoping, I guess, and what I think may be going on is, let's get the negotiation started with seeing how much of a hometown discount we can get, right? So you're trying to be as fiscally responsible as you can, and I think Listen, I do think both
Goon's
of those
trying
guys.
to decide where he's going for his anniversary dinner tonight.
I know where I'm going.
Oh yes, indeed. Happy anniversary.
He opened with getting McDonald's delivered, and that's how negotiations
exactly right.
began.
Kerry said that's not going to work.
We start at the bottom, you work your way up.
But I think you see because I do think both of those guys
via Grubhub. We're going to open the negotiations and ask for a hometown discount.
I'll go pick it up. Sure.
No, I don't think. I think both of those guys genuinely like playing in Pittsburgh, like the team that they are on, and realize the potential that is there. I also think there's not a chance in hell either of them is going to take a pay cut to stay with the Penguins. But again, I think kind of throwing it out there, seeing what the reaction is by both players. Again, I think neither player is going to agree to that, but see if it's like, hey, come on, you gotta pay me at least what I'm making, and let's see if we can make this work. I mean, I don't know. I think
you're gonna cut the cord eventually, though. I mean, you're not gonna cut the cord with.
Well, I mean, yes, because at some point,
well, Tang, especially in my opinion, I think at the game, he is not a top tier talent that he was 5 years ago. He's not as good as he was 5 years ago.
Yeah,
but it's easy to say.
Yeah, but he is such. Listen. You never say anybody's irreplaceable, but what he brings to that team and the way he orchestrates, and yes, I mean he's not the same player he was 5 years ago, but I'm telling you, he is more savvy than he was, and he was darn savvy pretty much from the get-go.
What was Ruben Amaro's biggest mistake?
Signing Howard,
falling in love with the guys he won a championship with.
Jimmy Rollins,
on the
Howard,
Phillies.
Utley.
I do just wonder whether they're
getting
getting to that point. Because, you remember this time, not quite this time, a little bit before this time last year, Ironhead, we were talking about, is it time to ship Malkin out of town?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. See, I think that the Flyers did the Manchurian candidate thing and planted Ron Hextall.
I'm starting to buy into that conspiracy theory.
A lot of the Penguins,
Ron Hextall's
a lot of the big Penguin fans are actually saying these exact things. Like, I knew he would do this. He's doing it on purpose. That's only Pittsburgh people can say.
Yes, indeed.
So, Ironhead, I wasn't happy about the loss. I wasn't happy.
No, you can't be happy when the Rangers advance.
That's like the silver lining in it for you is I'm not happy that the Rangers won.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, it was a fantastic series to watch, and I know some
as was that
local
Maple Leafs Lightning series.
Oh, it was. Everything so far has been outstanding.
But those.
We tried to tell you on Thursday. Never underestimate the media in Toronto, man. Those guys they played.
They were tight.
Yes, they were.
There's no question.
And Tampa Bay is sitting there. We got 2 cups. We're just going to go out there and play.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
My Lord.
It's a beautiful thing.
The just a quick aside, changing gears completely.
Well,
but
don't change it completely.
Okay.
Cheap shot or not? Do you think?
I
have people who swear by it is, and other people who are like, absolutely not.
I don't think you're talking about the helmet off.
No, Crosby.
Crosby. No, we talked about that. I thought it was borderline. I did think the elbow. I mean, I don't think it was blatant. My God, that has to be a fine and suspension and all of that.
The helmet
but
thing
I did
was
think
a
that that was very weird.
That was like an old veterans play, like the old basketball player who can fake the charge and this. And that's how I felt about it. Like, he ran in the back of the net and he acted like he was falling down and tried to grab his helmet that's what it looked like to me. It looked like he grabbed him to hold him up from falling into the net. And by the way, I'm sorry, I ripped your helmet off. And now you must go to the bench. But it is crazy.
The Crosby hit I thought was I really thought it was borderline. I mean, I think you could have called a penalty there, but I don't think I don't think it's a grave injustice that it wasn't.
So a manager of the local restaurant around town that sells a lot of wings and they have a radio show every Tuesday, Thursday is a ardent, crazy Penguins fan. And he said he's done watching NHL because if something like that would happen to Steph Curry in the NBA where, there was a guy the other night who got hit in the back of the head and he's out for the playoffs with a concussion. He said if something like that happened to Steph Curry, what would the NBA do to the guy who did it?
It is
whether
a difference
it
between
was
the NBA and the NHL.
Yes. He's trying to say is they protect their stars.
Yeah.
And I actually brought up, imagine having two of the top 5, top 10 hockey players in the history of the game, in Mario and in Sidney Crosby, whose careers may be cut short because of injuries that could have been prevented with a little better safety type of thing.
Yeah. A little more emphasis. But
Lindros deserved every concussion he got. There's no doubt about it. He really did. That's the way he played. Now, see, I'm sitting there saying that my argument to that is that what, 3, 4, 5 minutes before, I don't know what it was, but Crosby lined somebody up and drilled them in right around the same spot where he got hit. I don't know what the hell one it was. It could have been the same game, could have been the same shift, or could have been the game before or not. I don't know, but if he's going to play like that, he has to expect that type of physical play back. And that's what the Eric Lindros thing. I never had an issue with what happened to Eric Lindros because that's how he played the game. Head down, not looking at anybody, and he was a physical player. Now, Crosby's never really been a physical player. You could see either way where the little elbow, jumping up. Yeah, yes, no, maybe, I don't know. But as manager of a wing place here in State College that has a radio show Tuesday and Thursday, said the NHL should be ashamed of itself because they don't protect their own stars. And I could see that argument too.
Yeah, I will say, if that happened to a quarterback, to Tom Brady or, in the NFL.
They protect the hell out of the quarterbacks. It's what they do in the NHL, and they protect their stars in the NBA.
Yeah.
You can't let your guys go out there and start getting run. And he's adamant about Toronto having the city of Toronto has too much of a stronghold on the NHL where if Austin Matthews has got his head lopped off like that, would something be said or done about that? I don't know.
That's a good question. And I feel like probably yes, it would be handled differently. But yeah, I don't know that with any.
You don't want to see a game come down. And I guess what I want to say is you don't want to see a game or a series come down to a cheap shot injury and this and that, but in essence, it really did because that was a sweep. They were going to get not a sweep, but they were going to get run out of the building.
It changed. It definitely completely changed Game 5. I do think if that doesn't happen, and again, it's what. For all the good it does you to talk about it, it's just like, how does the Penn State football season play out if Clifford doesn't go down against Iowa, right? It plays out differently for sure. How differently, I don't know. In this particular case, yes. Do I feel very confident that if it doesn't happen, the Penguins end that thing in 5? I do. I'll never be able to prove it. Rangers fans could argue, and I can't do anything to legitimately back up my belief, but. The way that game, and again, I know the Rangers came back then from 2 goals again in Game 6, so it's debatable. But it was the way that game was being played at that point. The Penguins were in complete control, and they were dominating the center of the ice. The Rangers, they could not get up the middle of the ice. And it's just really hard to come back from 2 goals down with the firepower that the Penguins have and with the way they were playing defensively with those lines at that point. And I do think that injury for sure changed that game, and then obviously the complexion of the series. But again, that is part of, and we've talked about this many times, again, part of getting to the Stanley Cup just getting to the finals is you have got to be able to withstand. There's no team that gets to the Stanley Cup finals that hasn't had, now whether or not it's your captain and star player, but you have guys that are, you're not getting from the start of the playoffs to the end without some guys at the very least getting banged up, if not missing some ice time somewhere along the way.
Lots of banged up.
And I did feel really good with Jari coming back and with Crosby in the lineup for Game 7. It did feel good as a Penguins fan. You felt, again, very comfortable, very confident. And even again, the way that game played out, I think the Penguins controlled. I think they did, except for get one more goal. They did everything you needed to do to win that game and advance to the next round. And again, for me, that's part of the frustration. I don't think it was a situation where the Penguins choked or just gave things away or got, again, overconfident or careless or anything like that. It was just. From a Penguins perspective, just an unfortunate couple of breaks and a couple of key spots that ultimately led to the Rangers advancing, and Penguins are hitting the golf course.
Oh, yeah. Flyers are waiting for you, so don't worry about it. They're going to be caddying for you.
Yeah.
Thing about the Rangers fans, did you notice? I mean, again, we're the bystanders, so looking in from the outside, you were probably into the game a little bit more than I was, but hear a pin drop in there at times during that game. And then once they, start coming back, and, we're the greatest fans in the history of the world. Bullshit. You got one cup since 1941, so shut your mouth. And the NHL still hangs on it. So I hope hoping like hell, but they absolutely get the crap beat out in the next series. So
yeah. We'll see.
Let's go Carolina.
It's going to be
you don't want to go
long, interesting
The Penguins didn't want to travel to the South anyway. You know what I mean? It's hot Miami, hot Tampa,
hot Miami.
And I'm sure Carolina's hot by now. So, you got out of the heat a little bit early than expected. So
it's weird the trend that has happened in the Eastern Conference with the number of below the Mason-Dixon warm weather teams.
Yeah,
it kind of bothers me.
Could it be like a less pressure from the media? Because there isn't that many hardcore fans down there?
I would buy that there's something to that. It bothers me that there's an all-Florida series in the semis in the NHL. That bothers me.
And they have 2 Stanley Cups in the last couple of years, and Carolina has a Stanley Cup, and you don't have one in your life, right?
No.
75 was the last one.
Yeah.
I don't even remember it. I was born in 72, late 72. So
one night.
How many 3-year-olds are sitting up late watching Bobby Clark and Barney Perron?
Right,
so.
right. One night.
No, I was a Reggie Leach fan when I was 3.5.
I did a late night, sitting around our apartment when I was in college, like 3 a.m. You're drinking, making a list.
I've never done that in my life.
I know. I'm just explaining it to you so you have context.
Yeah, gotcha.
And my buddy's idea was rank your championships in the order you want them.
Gotcha.
From most to least.
Of the 4. Or would you include Penn State?
Yeah, I included Penn State as a 5th.
Okay.
And I have given up on number 1 and number 2, which is Penn State National Championship number 1, Flyers Stanley Cup number 2.
That was 1 and 2 for you.
Yeah, I've given up on both. I mean, with college football, it's partially just because it's
out there right now, man.
It's so random and arbitrary. But with hockey, it's just like at this point, I think I'd be happy just to see them get to the playoffs more regularly. That the disintegration of the Flyers, which was we've talked about this before, for the longest time, they were the most hardcore,
fired up fan base. They were the most loyal fan base.
Yeah.
You know who I compared it to? I made a Facebook post about it a couple weeks ago. I said, who was more mad right now? Because I lived in Washington, D.C., and I lived in Richmond for a 5-year span. And I'm telling you, I mean, I'm an Eagles fan. You're a Steelers fan. I've been around New York fans, been around Cowboys fans, but I'm telling you right now, the most loyal were the Washington Redskins. I mean, they were loyal. I mean, remember we were growing up, what they used to say, there's a 25-year waiting line for tickets to the Washington Redskins. Remember that? They hung their hat on that for years.
Yeah.
And that's what the Flyers organization was for years. And that's completely Daniel Snyder took over, and I know this. I was in Richmond, and I was living down there. And I was a football coach with a bunch of Redskin fans, and that's the day they signed. Daniel Snyder took over, so it was the greatest thing that ever happened. And then free agency happened. They signed Deion Sanders,
Bruce Smith,
Deion Sanders, and Thurman Thomas, and they went from 55 to 1 to win a Super Bowl to 8 to 1 in a half hour. And these guys are like, oh yeah, he's the greatest owner in the history of the world. And then here we are, 20 years later, talking about how much they hate him. But it's so similar what has happened with the organization of the Flyers. And I'm like, Mr. Schneider dies, so then Comcast corporate takes over, and What does corporate care about? They don't care about anything but one thing, and that's the bottom line. It's money. It started off with the Kate Smith get rid of her trophy because it was so woke because they made songs in the 30s and she may have sung them or not. I don't know what the hell it is, but she's an icon. It's like a part of history in the Philadelphia Flyer history. They got rid of her, and it was just, ever since then, it's like gone just like it's so pathetic. The fan base is just done. And then you talk to Washington Redskins fans, and they are completely out of it. How much they hate Daniel Snyder, how much they do not like the Washington Redskins. Sorry, the commies. Let's be PC, guys. It's the commies.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, it's just like the Rooney selling to NBC, or not NBC, just say Root Sports, and they just because that's all Comcast is. That started off as Root Sports. I mean, it's just that's how I think about it. I mean, the comparison of the two is just unbelievably. It's horrible what they've done to their fan bases. I mean, to turn the Philadelphia Flyer fan base against their own team, not the players' fault. I mean, I love the fact that I'm watching Claude Giroux go out there. He might win a Stanley Cup. He's probably going to win a Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers, and he's killing it down there. Good for him. I know Penguin fans don't like him. You hated him for a long time. I mean,
yeah, you got that right. Yeah, it's.
You were saying, Pooch.
You just made me sad.
No, I'm sorry, man.
See, I told you it's a depressing Tuesday.
So did you have the Phillies ahead of the Flyers? Are the Phillies ahead of the Eagles? Because they each got one since then.
The Eagles were number 3.
The Eagles were 3.
Yeah.
Phillies.
And then I think it was Phillies Sixers, if I remember.
Yeah. See, I would go. My personal would always be.
No, you know what? It was the other way around. It was Sixers Phillies. Don't forget that was Allen Iverson era, and like the height of the Phillies doldrums. Like the Phillies were terrible in the late '90s, early 2000s.
I did see Rico Brogna on TV earlier. Yeah. He was talking about he's a minor league manager. And I'm like, Rico Brogna is still in baseball. My God, in the heavens above. I remember. Rico Brogna and Ricky Batalico had the all South Philly name team out there.
Yeah, most Phillies fans today only know Ricky Batalico as the post-game analyst guy on TV. Well,
who's more sour, him or Chris Therien? My God.
Oh,
Chris Therien no longer. He got fired, so he has sour grapes everywhere.
When you hear Ricky Batalico's name, what's the first thing you think about? Because I think about one thing very, very clearly.
The post-game show or his All-Star game?
Whatever.
He has one All-Star game that he's hung his hat on for years.
Yes. So Philadelphia hosted the All-Star game. We were the host city. And they were terrible. The team was terrible. And so the thing I associate most with Ricky Batalico was the MLB has that rule. Yep. You got to have an all-star from every team. And you could tell they must have been sitting in the league office looking at the Phillies roster.
Who do we take here?
What are we going to do?
They don't have a veteran?
Yeah. And so Ricky Batalico was the guy.
So I remember the Ottawa Senators started. They had a expansion draft, and Brad Marsh went to go play for the Ottawa Senators, and he was their all-star. Every team had to have an all-star. So Brad Marsh was an all-star. But the funniest thing ever of an all-star game, I forget the guy's name, but the NHL had elected him, and he was a goon. Like a flat-out goon. He would come up 25, 30 games a year, and then he got elected into the NHL all-star game and then won the MVP, and they were furious, and they dropped the rule the next year because they were just feeding this guy. Everybody was just feeding him, and the goalies were letting him score and this and that. And he had 8 goals in his career. He had 13 in an all-star game.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I would go Eagles. I'm sorry. Obviously, Penn State football, Flyers, Phillies, Eagles, Sixers. That would. Obviously, I've always been sour on the NFL in the last 25 years, but I've always liked the Phillies more than the Flyers were always my number one.
Mm-hmm.
Easily by far.
Man, I would love that Stanley Cup. God,
so
frustrating.
I talked.
If there are Pittsburgh fans watching, they love that we're putting some salve on the wound because they love our misery.
Oh,
so there you go.
This is true.
I asked Booch when he got in here, are you happier that your enemy lost or that your team didn't even compete? It's like we get more enjoyment out of them losing than seeing the Flyers. The Flyers are being make the playoffs.
Well, yeah. What is there to? Did you realize, you probably knew this, that Pittsburgh and Philly finished with mirror image records?
I didn't realize that. Is that right?
Same number of ties and the same numbers in the win and loss column. Yeah. It's just, we had them in the wrong order.
I did not realize that, but
there's a word for that. It's a lot smarter than I am. We can spell them backwards.
I forget what it is.
Come on, smart boy.
I'm terrible.
Too many late night 3 a.m. drinking sessions making lists.
Palindrome or something
like that. I don't know. Yep. There we go. So Ironhead, what do you got? Who do you liking? You don't. Will you watch it? I guess that's my question. Will you continue to watch?
Not as passionately, but yes.
And I guess I should have asked this first. Did you stay up for the whole thing?
Oh yes.
You made it all the way up.
I did for that one.
And how about classic NHL?
Did go over and get some caffeine, which I never do at night, but I did get some caffeine in between the first and second
like 4 in the morning then?
So,
had to get right up?
It did take me a while to fall asleep because it just and I knew it would. I'm like, no matter how this ends, I'm not going to be able to get to sleep for another hour or so because it's just such a stupid thing that you do as a sports fan, but you can't. It's like you start just thinking about, if only this and only that, and like I said, and I started kind of just playing back in my mind. I'm watching all the post game stuff. I'm kind of flipping back between the national and the local post game shows, and listening to the assessments. And again, for me, that it was just a weird feeling. Depressing, but also weird because again, it wasn't like, I can't believe Jari let that goal in, or I can't believe. There was nothing there that it was like, my God, how could that happen? Like I don't know. And it's in some ways that's almost more agonizing because I think that the Penguins played well.
It was a hell of a game,
even throughout those final 3 games, for the most part. Again, the Crosby injury for sure. I mean, again, that game just changed on a dime. And I guess, in retrospect, the series did as well. Yeah. But again, I didn't think it was a situation where the Penguins were letting that linger. I mean, I thought they made the adjustments. They came out, they played well at the start of Game 6, took control of that game again. I will say I never felt as confident. I mean, I felt good. I'm not sitting here telling you I was predicting the Rangers to come back again, but Game 6, it was not the same feel as there was in Game 5 with that lead. Game 5, I will
that was
go to my
bag.
grave. Yeah, there's just no way.
Done.
The Rangers were not going to win that game.
They actually were calling for tea times the next morning because the Pens actually had 3 or 4 days off.
Just because of the way, it's a 2-goal lead and, dangerous, most dangerous lead in hockey and all that. I'm just telling you, the way that game was playing out and the way the Penguins were playing that game, I just feel supremely confident that series was over in Game 5 if not for the Crosby injury. But
here we go, Ironhead. I'm going to give you a scenario here. Now, what if you had Chris Letang 3 years ago, who was the heart of your team? He's not your best player, but he's the heart of your team.
Yeah.
He's out there working hard, tough guy, does what he has to do for the team. A lot of the younger guys look up to him. But Malkin and Crosby are the guys, and Getzel's the new guy in town. What if Getzel didn't like Chris Letang, and then the management decides to take, Letang's, and they run Letang out of town because they figure that Getzel is the future of the organization, and he may want to shoot, and he's this and he's that, and they run Chris Letang out of town.
Realistically, Goon, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen in professional sports.
You don't let a new guy dictate with a hard work.
I'm killing Boots right now. I'm glad you wore white today to match your skin here, Boots. I'm looking at you can barely even. Thank God we have a dark background for you here. So the Jimmy Butler thing.
I was just going to say on a completely different topic. If we want to talk about the NBA playoffs, how about Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat?
Goodness gracious! It's like he should have never left the places he was playing before.
I will say this: I love Jimmy Butler. I've loved him since he was in Chicago.
Yes,
I like Eric Spoelstra, and I like the Heat because they actually remind me the way they play a little bit more of like an 80s, 90s
Yeah,
era NBA team. They've got a couple of undrafted
Who's their management?
free agents.
Who's their management?
Pat Riley.
Pat Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going out and getting the guys.
I do not dislike this Miami Heat team at all. Now, I think they're going to have some trouble. I think Boston is going to be very tough. I hate Boston, but they're very tough defensively, and whoever comes out of the West is going to be a lot to handle. But I do think Miami actually probably got a little bit of the Eastern Conference Finals will always be challenging, especially because we talked about the East was pretty stacked this year. I think they're better off facing Boston than they were going up against Giannis and Milwaukee. I think Giannis is a tough matchup for them. Hey, before we get off the NHL, I want to comment on this is a general hockey thing. You brought up the most dangerous lead 2-goal philosophy. Let me share you something Joe Batista told me years ago, and I think he is spot on. He said the most dangerous lead in hockey isn't 2 goals, it's 3 goals. And he walked me through the reasoning, and it totally makes sense. He said, first of all, every hockey player since they've been old enough to lace up skates has heard that the 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead.
Yeah.
So you have that in your head.
Yeah.
You're aware of that. But break down the way you surrender a 3-goal lead. If you are up 3 goals and you let up 1 goal, it feels like nothing because you're still up 2.
But
so you're not worried as the team with the lead.
We're good.
But then if you let up a second goal, all of a sudden it's slingshots from you are in total panic mode because you were already planning what you were going to do after the game. And all of a sudden one bounce of the puck completely changes the momentum. And the other team that just came back 2 goals, they're like, we're invincible. We're going to kill these guys. So you're still up 1 goal, but it feels like you're falling apart and the other team feels like they're Superman. I'm buying it.
It's a booch. That's nice.
Yeah, it's the whole momentum thing, right? I mean, we talked about it.
Yeah, people say momentum's
series,
fake. I don't believe it at all.
No, although that Penguins Rangers series, I have never seen momentum switch so significantly, so often in one 7-game series. I mean, from game to game and just period to period, the momentum swings in that series. I'm sure there have been other series that were comparable, but it felt watching that series like there were just more swings like that.
Crosby Penguins have been feast or famine. It's been like win the championship or have like an inexplicable playoff collapse.
Yeah.
And so it really was like the unstoppable force and the immovable object because you have the Rangers who are just like slightly less infamous for collapsing than the Maple Leafs versus Pittsburgh seems like they're either going to go all the way or they're going to face plant out of the gate.
But most of those collapses,
but you're right. This was not.
There's been one of a couple of things that have happened. Either one, there was just a they ran into a team that just got crazy red hot type of
Montreal
thing, and or one of 3 things had happened, or you could just see. Like the chemistry, with an early loss, you could just see it just was not going well. Like you felt like there was finger pointing. I mean, I'm not saying publicly there was finger pointing in the locker room. I don't even know privately, but it just felt like, all right, this guy isn't holding up his end, and you just felt like that chemistry wasn't there. Or the thing that drove me nuts with a couple of those early departures is they just would not shoot the freaking puck. You have all of this offensive talent, and you control the action, and it's and especially on power plays. I mean, there were a couple of years there where I swear they just. It's like, well, let's just get as many passes as we can, and we think we're going to win by getting the most passes throughout the course of the game. It's like, just shoot the puck. Well, you certainly cannot fault the Penguins for not shooting the puck in this series against the Rangers.
Oh, no.
My God, it had to be close to a record-setting shots on goal that the Penguins had. I mean, I don't know what the record is, but my God, it was crazy how many shots. quality shots the Penguins got. And again, it wasn't like they were, just stonewalled by a red-hot goalie. They got quality shots and they got quality goals. I mean, so it wasn't and again, on the other end, I don't think there were like huge, horrible defensive lapses. It wasn't like a bunch of breakaways, which we also have seen in previous seasons with the early round exits.
Did you think they were going to call a penalty shot in overtime of Game 7?
No.
I at first when they first
he
blew
pointed,
the whistle,
he gave a point.
He did. Yeah,
I thought, I was like, oh.
No. Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, but
you're a hockey guy. We're all hockey guys. I would rather face a penalty shot. Then you don't have the penalty.
Well, especially because you're
almost 90%.
How tired those guys probably
got
killing off that.
Yeah,
and the Rangers too,
true.
by the way.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I'm a big guy watching in between periods, and I love Rick Tocchet. He said, and then the other guy, was Anson Carter or Kevin Weeks, whoever. One of them was saying, the Penguins have doing what they always do in the playoffs, and they are keeping 4 lines out there fresh. I mean, they're rotating them through and this and that, and they have to. They're not young guys
for sure.
And the Rangers were going two line, 2.5 lines, and sometimes a third line, and some barely even a fourth line. So, they were going to wear out throughout that game. So the longer that game went on, the Penguins would have been better off. You can't really. I mean, it happened. It is what it is. I mean, that seeing eye puck was just unbelievable. I could not believe it went in. I mean, I really. And then they slow it down. But again, I go back to the post game interviews, and they had Don Koharski calling on, and he goes, "No, he did not have to go to the bench. If the helmet was within sight." It's like his glove. If his glove falls,
I have never.
You can pick your glove up and put it back on, or your helmet. You don't have to buckle it. You can just put it on. But he was too busy complaining to the referee, and then he skates away. And then even Sullivan, that's the coach, right? Sullivan.
Yep.
He was like, he had to go by rule. He had to go, and then they were like, it's not the rule. He could have, because it was in like reaching distance, But again, they could have just cleared the puck.
Is there a rule that is more misunderstood than in the United States? I swear. I mean, I'm not going to claim to be a hockey aficionado, but I mean, I followed it pretty closely since the league. I swear
I don't remember that.
I thought that was the rule. I mean,
not to bring up Rico Brogna again, but the reason he was on MLB Network when I was having lunch here before.
You are smashing the over-under on Rico Brogna.
Absolutely. I mean, we're already maxed out through 2025. So
I feel like
he was talking. He's a minor league manager and talking about the pitch count. Not the pitch count, but the pitch number. Like you have 15 seconds from when you get the ball to throw the pitch. You know what I mean? The watch. And the guy at MLB Network, he goes, no one knows this. The pitcher, it's a rule. You have 12 seconds to when you're on that mound to get to throw that ball. But no one, it's never even enforced. No one even talks about it. I'm like, well, here they're talking about something that they're trying to change, but it's already on the books. It's like they need to enforce it better.
It's like traveling in the NBA.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
I haven't seen one called since Dr. J, I think. My Lord. So, back to Jimmy Buckets.
I don't know. If you get to that 7th or 8th step, they're pretty consistent in calling.
As long as you don't leave with your head, I guess. If you keep your elbows down, you're good.
I would say we should be one to talk now with James Harden in Philadelphia, but he's too lazy to drive to the bucket anymore. So,
did I say that Thursday? Who he reminded me of, or did I say it after the show?
Remind me.
He reminded me of World Be Free out there.
Oh, yes.
He looks like he's 74 years old with like a fake beard, and he looks like when he dressed up LeBron James back in the day and Kyrie when they put him in the old man outfits, dusting people on the court. But that's what Harden looks like out there.
And, I've heard people say, he's never been in great shape his entire career. It's like, well, I mean, I don't know if he's ever looked like an Adonis. But I remember what James Harden looked like in Oklahoma City and for his first several years at Houston. And, he did not have, a gut hanging out over his waistline of his shorts. So
you're going to blame Philadelphia cuisine on it again, aren't you?
Cheesesteaks.
No, he looked like that when he got to Philly.
He drove Jimmy Butler out. That's what we'll use that. But that's what made me mad. I mean, if you guys saw my Facebook post on late Thursday night, which is very alcohol-induced rant I went on, I just can't believe that all he wanted to do with Simmons was push him to make him work harder to be a professional. Isn't that what you want out of an organization, to have a veteran come in and be that coach on the court and this and that? But no, the athletes nowadays don't want to hear that in any sport. I can't just blame the NBA. It's every sport. It's just unbelievable. I mean, you had this set up perfect. You had these absolute stars in the making. They needed an on-court guy to lead them and say, hey, this is how it's done. And you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning for a shoot around, and they run him out of town because he was too tough on him. That makes me insane sick.
And, the thing with Simmons, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Ben Simmons, but I just saw brought up again that they are having difficulty with him in Brooklyn. And the rumor is, and this has been the rumor around him for a while, that his ultimate goal is to engineer his way to go to LA.
And play with LeBron James.
I think,
and you know who they share the same agent. That's why,
right? Sure.
So it's almost like a backhanded, backdoor way to get him out there.
I think Ben Simmons belongs in a city like New Orleans or Memphis or Charlotte or Orlando.
He belongs in Beijing with no TV,
where there's no scrutiny. He's gone from Philadelphia now to New York. And he wants to go out to L.A. like Lakers fans bust LeBron James's balls because they don't think he's consistent enough. And Ben Simmons wants to go out there under that spotlight and play in the shadow of Kareem and Shaq and Kobe and Magic. I don't know. I think that is a terrible.
He wants to learn how to destroy an organization. Him and LeBron have destroyed how many now?
Maybe what he's trying to do is get to the Celtics, Sixers, and Lakers, and then finish with the Pistons and try to destroy every franchise that won a title in the 1980s.
There you go. It's just the way they cater to athletes now, and it's only getting worse. It's just completely insane, especially at that level. I mean, I was never a fan of when they started saying, trust the process, trust the process. What is that? You're going to teach these guys how to lose, and it's okay to lose. Dude, I'm sorry, man. But when we grew up, those guys, you got your face ripped off if that's how you were playing out there.
No.
You think you're going to tell Magic Johnson, hey, you know what? Take it easy. We don't want you to play tonight. We don't want you out there tonight. It's Thursday night.
The Pirates might not have scored any runs against the Cubs the other day.
Reds.
But I thought it was Chicago.
Was it Chicago or Cincinnati?
Right? Wasn't it Chicago?
The Reds that they got
no you're talking about the game where they won. Where
they got no hit. Sorry, I apologize.
Yes. But the Cubs, right.
But they were, they were trying. They were doing their best.
No hit, and they won a game.
I know we just talked about this last week. How bad are the Reds? So terrible.
Yes,
it is.
Oh my Lord!
It is going to be the salvation of the Pirates for this year because the Reds are so
zombie Mark shots going to rise from a grave.
Well, the Pirates are doing what the Pirates have done in the last 4 or 5 years, and that's they don't start hot, but they are sort of competitive in the first half of the season.
Yeah, and they have good hustle,
and then it just wears out.
We'll see how it holds up once you're 20 games, 25 games out, and August is rolled around.
Exactly.
And
then you lose 19 out of 27 games
to finish the season, and that's been kind of the signature here of the Pirates.
It's good having the Reds in that same division, though. So
it helps. It does help.
Penn State night at PNC Park is the Pirates Phillies at the end of July.
What night? 28th. They play Thursday to Sunday.
It's the Saturday, I think.
Saturday night? Nice.
Friday or Saturday.
Which cool opportunity at PNC Park today, the Pitt Penn State series finishes up.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is really cool.
That's very cool. Don't look now. Penn State, not too shabby.
No.
By Northeast College baseball standards.
No, they've been.
And Pitt's got a good team, too, from what I understand. I don't follow ACC baseball super closely.
Yeah, nor do I, but apparently, Pitt has a pretty good chance of making the regionals from what they're saying,
which
is not insignificant. Yeah. And yes, also not
take them down,
not
Coop.
News.
Take them down a peg or two. Get them out of there.
It would be welcomed. That is for sure.
So, I asked you before, going forward, you're good watching hockey and stuff like that because
Yeah, I'm not going to be as if we have other stuff coming out. We have stuff going on anyway. So I wasn't glued to the TV as a single Ironhead would have been, just because we've got other obligations. But I'm constantly checking my score. I will say, if I'm home and the playoffs are on, I'm watching,
because Calgary Edmonton is going to be an absolute war
for sure.
Oh, how about
awesome,
right?
Yeah. I love it because it's just like the Flyers Penguins when the fireworks are coming.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what's going to happen out there.
Let me ask you guys about that. This was something I was curious to run by both of you. Do you have like a little petty nationalistic root against the Canadian teams to keep that Canadian NHL franchise without a cup streak going?
Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
What year?
I do like the
90. Was it 93? Oh, 93. Yeah, Montreal, right?
You should know two players, at least two ex-Flyers on that team.
Was John LeClair on that team?
Correct.
And Mark Recchi.
Ooh, might be three then.
No, Recchi played in Montreal for a little while, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he might have been there. You're
right. I know, and LeClair was there. And
Desjardins, Eric Desjardins was there.
Yeah,
they were both young bucks, and But I remember that whole country goes crazy. Didn't Vancouver have a riot when Boston beat them in Game 7? Like they literally had a riot, because their team lost in the Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final. You don't want to laugh about a riot, but my God, it's like Jesus. At least if you're gonna win, you can tear some shit up. But jeez, oh, Lord,
that would be imagine if the Toronto Blue Jays had won the last 35 World Series.
I don't know who they are.
Yeah. How about
They've been dead to me.
Just rubbing salt in all the wounds.
Oh Lord. So I was out last week at a convention, and I bring up OJ again. I'm laughing because we were laughing about it because we were at a party one time and I had some friends who were fantasy football wasn't big in the early 90s, but they were. It was 93, so OJ would have been a rookie. So he was up at Penn State at a party we were all at. And he was saying the Phillies were whack, the Phillies are this and that. All my buddies are sitting there these are older guys, and they're like. They all went home the next day. They cut them off their fantasy football league.
That'll teach him.
I told OJ, he goes, man. I said, they're hardcore, dude. You talk smack on the Phillies, you're going to get taken off a draft team, of fantasy leagues, bro.
OJ never got over it.
Oh, my goodness.
Haunted him the rest of his career.
He's like, they go home, they get phone calls. They're like, I got to get rid of that. I dropped him off my fantasy team. He said the Phillies were whack.
You guys probably don't remember, but did you know that Joe Carter once played for the Blue Jays? Do you guys aware of that?
I don't know that.
No memory. He did.
Hey, I gotta go to the bathroom real quick. I'm gonna take a knife to your tires right now.
NFL schedules coming out. 16-1 is what I have the Steelers. I think it's going to be tough for them to win at Cincinnati, but the other 16 look.
I had a suite. I had 4 tickets in a suite for the Eagles Steelers.
Yeah.
I had it set up with a buddy of mine. I said, listen, this happened months ago. I said, listen, we're playing next year. I said, I got a couple of Steelers fans I want to bring down. He goes, all right, we'll take them. We'll put them in the suite. 1:00 the day after Ohio State is the Eagles Steelers.
Oh, well, you'll have plenty of time to get down there because that's going to be a noon kickoff.
Do you think that's going to happen?
Oh, yeah, dude, it's happening. We are in total big noon, high noon whiteout territory. It stinks, but TV rules the roost.
Yep.
And they are killing it ratings-wise with those noon kickoffs.
They should.
Yeah, of course. There's nothing else on.
You're going to compete with the likes of Louisville and Syracuse up in the Carrier Dome.
It just stinks. It's terrible. I mean, a noon kickoff for Penn State, Ohio State feels like sacrilege to me.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
are they going to try and do the whiteout that day, or would they try to move it?
We've done daytime whiteouts before. We did it against
What's our record in the whiteouts? Everybody talks about how awesome it is. They're great, but
it's still a great experience.
They're a losing record in whiteouts.
I don't think it's a losing record. So here's the other question. Do you count? Did you just count from 2007, the Notre Dame game, or do you include the 05 and 04 student section whiteouts?
It's a technicality.
I mean, it wouldn't matter because they're 1-1 in those games. Lost
it
the
doesn't
game,
matter.
beat Ohio State.
But that Notre Dame game, holy crap. That 05 Ohio State game, you've heard my story about this before, right? I'll remind you. Ohio State's equipment manager called Spider Caldwell the next morning and said, Brad, I am not going to lie to you. I know we lost that game, but that was the greatest atmosphere I've ever been involved with in a college football game. This is an Ohio State guy saying that. And I mean, again, that was my first year coming back, and it was just like.
That was one of those nights that they say, like, like
you could
hundreds of thousands will claim they were there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so to have been there and experienced
had a little spitting rain going on. It was a little cold, a little overcast. And I remember just sitting there, and we walked onto the field.
You could literally feel the stadium in the press box.
Oh, you were in the box, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
And I am not kidding you. Like, I mean, it is going through my mind. Like, how solid are we that the engineers know that this thing isn't? I mean, you weren't. There was part of me that I'm not kidding, was nervous that
do you remember that
one of the biggest news stories in sports history?
And then a week later,
when the stadium collapses, you could feel. I mean, you could feel it.
And there must have been enough people complaining about it because they had an architecture company come in very soon after that.
Absolutely did.
They had them come in there, and they said, just don't jump. Just don't jump. You'll be all right.
Paxson recovers Holly forced fumble.
Oh yeah.
95 dead in total collapse.
No, I'm telling you.
press box falls onto the field.
If the press box came down around my ears at that moment, first of all, I would have died happy. Second of all, I would want it reported in that order. Like,
I'm with
number
you
16 Penn State upsets number 6 Ohio State at home. 95 dead.
A 30 for 30.
Do you remember the like you almost couldn't hear it. It was like one of those audible to dogs, but that humming noise from the vibration of the metal in the because the whole thing is they call it a battleship because it's just all steel girders. And when everybody was jumping up and down, the press box started vibrating, and you could just hear this it was awesome.
People say about you go to Michigan before. I'm interested. I'm going out to Michigan this year. I'm interested to see the noise level with their new press box out there, because being a bowl, Michigan was the quietest stadium you played in. You'd be like, this is horrible. 110,000. That's crap. It's just like the Rose Bowl. It just goes straight up.
Yep.
But then they put that tiered press box in there now. So I'm interested to see how if it's going to contain a lot more noise coming down there.
Yeah.
By the way, it just came out. The away game tickets just came out. And I ordered my Auburn tickets. Auburn still goes mobile. Does not do mobile tickets. They do hard tickets.
Good for them.
Old school. Way to go.
For them.
Of course, all the Big Ten teams. Oh, we don't do that. No, we're going to Ticketmaster. We got to pay somebody to do that. God forbid you have your company. You support a local company printing some tickets up. Oh, goodness gracious! But who am I to complain? But hey, what am I supposed to do? Who am I to say?
It's a surly Goon after the Penguins blew that 3-1 series.
It was tough.
It was a surly Goon on Thursday and Friday. Trust me, after the Sixers. I told Booch, I said the Flyers suck, so I reinvested myself into the Sixers a little bit. And I'm watching it. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I getting mad at this right now? And then we're talking about players and injuries and going through the playoffs. He had broke his eye socket, had a torn thumb ligament. That's normal. That goes on every team. You got to deal with those injuries and this and that. And no one else did anything to step up. And it was just like, you hear your coach saying, you got to want this. How will you have to tell a professional a basketball team in the fourth quarter that you got to want this? You have to want this. You shouldn't have to say a freaking word.
Yeah.
My don't, to borrow a line from Chris Buchagnani. I don't. All right. Starting the show, Ironhead was pissed off. Now I'm all pissed off.
Oh, real quick. The other thing I do want to just mention, not that I'm expecting they're going to be checking this out, but you never know. The 62 Penn State wrestling team is on campus today. They're going out for dinner tonight, but they're checking out practice. But 60 years ago that they finished up their wrestling careers, and a bunch of them are on campus. Of course, Ron Pfeiffer was one of the co-captains of that team, and
they could still kick your ass.
Tipped me off to that. I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you that too.
There's a few of them that absolutely could. I guarantee you.
Speaking of surly,
yeah, they hopefully they have a great time together and a great visit on campus. One of the other co-captains has not been on campus since graduating in 1962. This will be his first time on campus. No, I don't think. I don't think so. I don't think there's any. I think just life, and although he lives in Titusville, maybe there is more. But
coming back and seeing this.
So yeah, I'm really.
What happened to the
curious.
chicken coops?
What is this? Eisenhower. What is this? Eisenhower Auditorium. What is this?
I am curious to hear
Who's this Eisenhower guy?
His perspective, and especially if he gets downtown at all. I would love to get his perspective on just how substantially.
Just tell him to drive in, make a left off of 26 out by Hickey, and say, just look at the campus, and you see monstrosity after monstrosity.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. But
honestly, guys, you guys are local guys. You both live here. Jeff, you grew up here. Are you okay with the?
First of all, I never grew up. I was raised.
Good call.
Here. I don't like it, but I mean,
You wanted the small town charm, which I get. I understand that.
Well, the thing I don't understand. I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole because I could spend hours. But I genuinely just don't understand from the perspective of those that are putting it in the buildings. All of these new buildings. We were downtown for an event on Saturday. And I knew, I'm aware of the number of storefronts that are empty, but it's a little different when you're actually walking around and looking at it. It's like, holy God.
Now,
and
everybody knows there's a rule.
New buildings that are going in with all of this office space that is going to go unused. I mean, you instinctively know that this is. And I get the premium that, at least at the moment, enough students are paying to get those buildings paid for. But this just does not seem sustainable. And from an economic standpoint, it cannot be good, right, for any town to have empty storefront after empty storefront after empty office space after empty office space for people that are coming in to visiting and thinking about, okay, where do we want to go? Where do we want to live? What do we want to do? That is not the image that you want to be projecting. And I don't know.
You can't convince me otherwise. To me. You cannot convince me otherwise that the powers that be in our little small town, the power brokers in this town and the regular people don't want the students outside because, the old adage is that college kids never grew up with like brothers and sisters. So not of them have their own rooms and they really don't know how to live without having their own room. So that's why they're building all these new apartment buildings and they're getting their own rooms. Yes. But I don't think that they want the kids expanding it more and more farther outside of the university. Because then you're gonna, you're dealing with drinking and driving, and then late night parties in neighborhoods and stuff like that. So I'm convinced that the local townspeople are they're okay with all these things going up to keep these kids out of their yards. I really am. But the storefront thing just drives me absolutely crazy. And they keep on building more and more, and it's like, dude, you have 70% empty right now. Why do you keep on building more?
That's my question.
You start a couple of beds in there, you can make some money right there on football weekends, I think.
All right. Your kid's off of our lawn. Old man rant done for the day.
It is what it is.
We will be back on Thursday with another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. Until then, be good